Marcus Chen stared at his reflection in the smart window of his 47th floor apartment, watching it shift between opacity settings as the sunset algorithms adjusted to the dying light. 3 years of coding for quantum dynamics had earned him this view of Seattle's gleaming skyline, but tonight, like most nights, he felt oddly disconnected from the pulsing city below. The notification came without warning or fanfare. His apartment's eye assistant simply announced, "Congratulations, Resident Chen. You have been selected for participation in the Galactic Cultural Integration Initiative. Please prepare for orientation." Marcus laughed, assuming it was another bug in the building's smart systems. He'd been meaning to debug the temperamental code for weeks. "System reset," he commanded, but the message remained frozen on his window display, slowly shifting from standard text to geometric patterns he'd never seen before. The air in his apartment grew thick with an electric charge, like the moment before lightning strikes. His skin tingled as 3 columns of light materialized in his living room, coalescing into humanoid forms that defied earthly description. They stood nearly 7 feet tall, their bodies covered in what appeared to be liquid metal that flowed like mercury, but glowed with an inner light. "Greetings." Marcus Chen, the central figure, spoke, its voice a harmony of tones that seemed to bypass his ears and resonate directly in his mind. "I am Administrator Zix-427, and these are my associates, Observers NEN-189 and Cry-965. We represent the Galactic Council's Cultural Integration Division." Marcus stumbled backward, his shoulder hitting the smart window. The impact caused it to cycle through its transparency settings rapidly, creating a strobing effect that made the alien's metallic skin dance with rainbow reflections. This has to be a joke," he managed, his voice barely a whisper. "Some kind of advanced hologram system." Observer NEN-189 moved forward with fluid grace, extending what appeared to be an arm, though it transformed into various geometric shapes as it moved. "Your skepticism is expected and noted. However, we assure you this is quite real. You have been selected based on multiple criteria, including your work in quantum computing, your psychological profile, and your living situation." My living situation. Marcus found himself fixating on this detail, perhaps because it seemed the most mundane in a moment of absolute surreality. "Yes," Administrator Zix-427 confirmed. "Single occupancy, high-rise dwelling, minimal social connections outside of work environments. Ideal conditions for our initial contact protocol. We will be your—" I believe the term roommates would be appropriate, though our function extends far beyond mere cohabitation. Marcus's mind raced through every possible explanation. A mental breakdown, an elaborate prank, a dream. But the steady hum of energy emanating from the beings before him felt undeniably real. The air itself seemed to vibrate at a frequency that made his teeth ache slightly. "The Galactic Council has determined that Earth is ready for preliminary integration procedures," Observer Cry-965 explained, its form shifting like quicksilver as it spoke. "Rather than approaching government authorities directly, we have initiated a grassroots program, selecting individuals who can help facilitate understanding between our civilizations. And you chose me because I'm lonely." Marcus hadn't meant to sound so defensive, but the words came out sharp. "We chose you because you are adaptable," Administrator Zix-427 corrected. "Your work demonstrates an understanding of quantum principles that aligns with basic galactic scientific standards. Your isolated lifestyle means minimal risk of immediate information spread. And yes, your emotional state suggests you might benefit from expanded horizons." Marcus sank into his ergonomic gaming chair, the one luxury he'd allowed himself last year. "So what exactly does this integration procedure involve?" "We will live here, study your habits, share our knowledge, and help prepare you. And through you, humanity. For the broader galactic community," NEN-189 explained. "Think of us as exchange students, though we are also your mentors. And I don't have a choice in this. You always have a choice, Administrator 6427 said, its form solidifying slightly into a more humanoid shape. We can leave now and select another candidate. However, consider this. How long have you stared out that window? Marcus Chen, wondering if there was something more. We are offering you not just proof of other life in the universe, but a chance to help shape humanity's first steps into a larger community. Marcus looked at his reflection again in the window, now overlaid with the shimmering forms of his 3 alien visitors. He saw in his own eyes the same longing he'd felt every night, staring at the stars hidden behind the city's light pollution. Here was his chance to be part of something truly meaningful, to break free from the loop of code sleep repeat that had defined his existence. Okay, he heard himself say, surprising even himself with the steadiness in his voice. I accept, but I have conditions. The 3 beings shifted in what might have been surprise. State your terms, Administrator 6427 said. First, you all need human names for public interactions. I can't introduce you as 6427 to the neighbors. Second, you need to learn to appear human when we're not in the apartment. And third, he paused, a smile tugging at his lips, you have to help me debug this building's AI system. It's driving me crazy. For a moment, there was silence. Then, to Marcus's astonishment, the 3 beings emanated what he could only interpret as laughter, a crystalline sound that made the windows vibrate in their frames. Your terms are acceptable, Administrator 6427 said, its form shifting into a more distinctly feminine shape. You may call me Sarah. And you are correct. Our first lesson in human culture should be the art of blending in. As Marcus watched his new roommates experiment with their humanoid forms, he couldn't help but think that his apartment's buggy eye had just given him the greatest notification of his life. The city beyond his window suddenly seemed less distant, less cold, and infinitely more interesting. The real challenge would begin tomorrow, when he'd have to explain to his building manager why his power usage had suddenly tripled and why his new roommates seemed to glow faintly in the dark. The morning after first contact, Marcus woke to the smell of something burning. He bolted upright in bed, then froze at the sight before him. Sarah, formerly Administrator 6427, stood in his kitchen, her metallic form flickering between human and alien appearances as she studied a thoroughly cremated piece of toast. I have been analyzing your breakfast preparation rituals, she announced, not looking up from the charred bread. The process seems simple, yet the results are inconsistent with my observations of proper human sustenance. The other 2 aliens, who had chosen the names Maya and Alex, were hovering near the ceiling, literally hovering, their forms rippling with curiosity as they examined his apartment's light fixtures. Maybe we should start with something simpler, Marcus suggested, trying not to laugh at the incongruous scene. Like how to maintain a consistent human appearance in gravity-bound positions. The 3 beings descended, their forms solidifying into more convincing human shapes. They had spent hours the previous night perfecting their disguises, though they still moved with an otherworldly grace that would draw attention. Your species relies heavily on visual deception, Maya observed, adjusting her now human appearance in the mirror. These clothes serve no practical purpose beyond social conformity and temperature regulation. Marcus pulled on his work jacket, checking his phone. Speaking of social conformity, I need to go to the office today. We should establish some ground rules while I'm gone. We have already compiled a list of protocols based on our observations of human residential behavior, Alex said, materializing a holographic display from their fingertips. No hovering, no phase shifting through walls, no quantum communications that might interfere with local networks. And no answering the door, Marcus added firmly. My neighbor, Mrs. Rodriguez, is notorious for dropping by unannounced, usually with suspicious casseroles. As if on cue, there was a knock at the door. All 4 of them froze, the aliens instantaneously shifting into perfect human form. Marcus moved to the door, heart pounding, and peered through the peephole. Mrs. Rodriguez stood outside, holding what appeared to be her infamous tuna surprise. Marcus turned to his new roommates with panic in his eyes, but they had already disappeared. Or rather, they had transformed themselves to blend perfectly with his furniture. Sarah was now his leather armchair, Maya his bookshelf, and Alex his standing lamp. Taking a deep breath, Marcus opened the door. "Mrs. Rodriguez, what a surprise." "Marcus, dear, I heard voices last night and wanted to make sure everything was all right, and to bring you some breakfast." The elderly woman peered past him into the apartment, her eyes narrowing slightly at the new furniture arrangement. "Just had some friends over for a movie night," Marcus said quickly, and was actually just heading to work. "Did you get new furniture? That chair looks expensive." Mrs. Rodriguez took a step forward, and Marcus watched in horror as Sarah the armchair shifted ever so slightly to maintain her form. "Online sale," he blurted. "Listen, I really need to get to work, but thank you for the casserole." He accepted the dish, making a mental note to analyze its contents with the alien's advanced scanning technology later. After Mrs. Rodriguez finally left, his 3 guests reformed, looking rather pleased with themselves. "Our first successful human interaction simulation," Maya declared proudly. "Turning into furniture is not exactly what I meant by blending in," Marcus sighed, but he couldn't help smiling. "While I'm at work, please focus on studying normal human behavior. Watch some TV, read some books. Just try to act natural." The workday was torture. Marcus couldn't focus on his code, his mind constantly wandering to what his alien roommates might be doing to his apartment. When he finally returned home that evening, he found them engaged in what they called comprehensive cultural analysis. Maya had discovered online shopping and ordered what appeared to be one of everything from several major retailers. Alex was halfway through Wikipedia, absorbing information at an impossible rate and occasionally muttering corrections to various scientific articles. And Sarah was watching cat videos. These small furry creatures hold inexplicable power over human attention spans, she explained seriously. "We must understand their appeal to better integrate into your society." "Right," Marcus said, stepping over packages of kitchen gadgets, exercise equipment, and what looked like a full-sized replica of a dinosaur skeleton. "We need to talk about budgeting and reasonable use of my credit card." But his complaints died away as he saw what they had actually accomplished during the day. Holographic displays showed detailed analyses of human social patterns, cultural evolution, and technological development. They had compiled more accurate data about human civilization in 8 hours than most anthropologists gathered in their entire careers. "We have also made progress in understanding human emotional patterns," Sarah said, her form shifting slightly as she spoke. "For instance, we perceive that you are experiencing stress, but also excitement. Your cortisol levels are elevated, yet your dopamine production has increased significantly since our arrival. You can measure my hormone levels. Among other things," Maya added, "we find your species' biochemical responses fascinating. You operate on such a complex mixture of logical and emotional impulses." "Speaking of emotional impulses," Alex interjected, "we have been monitoring global communications and have detected 17 potential situations that could lead to human conflict. Should we intervene?" "No," Marcus said quickly. "No interventions. Remember, we're trying to keep a low profile. Which reminds me, we need to work on your public interactions. Tomorrow's Saturday, and I thought we could practice by going to the farmer's market." The 3 aliens exchanged looks of what might have been excitement. "Will there be cats?" Sarah asked hopefully. "Probably not, but there will be lots of people. It's a good chance to practice acting human in public." Marcus paused, considering. "Just promise me you won't turn into produce if someone gets too close." That night, as Marcus lay in bed listening to his new roommates quietly discussing quantum physics in the living room, he realized his life had become exponentially more complicated and infinitely more interesting. The city lights still flickered outside his window, But now they seemed less like distant, cold stars and more like a reminder of the vast, amazing universe that had somehow found its way into his apartment. He just hoped they could make it through a simple trip to the farmer's market without accidentally revealing the existence of alien life to all of Seattle. But given how Sarah had spent 3 hours that afternoon practicing human facial expressions in the mirror, and still somehow looked like she was trying to smile while solving complex mathematical equations, he wasn't entirely optimistic. At least his apartment's AI system was working better than ever, though he suspected that had less to do with debugging and more to do with Maya having a lengthy conversation with it in binary code. The farmer's market had been a disaster, or a success. Marcus still wasn't sure which. 1 week later, Sarah had managed to maintain her human appearance perfectly until she saw her first real-life cat, at which point her excitement caused her to briefly illuminate like a Christmas tree. Maya had gotten into an intense debate about sustainable farming practices with an organic farmer, accidentally revealing knowledge of agricultural techniques that wouldn't be invented for another century. And Alex, well, Alex had at least managed not to turn into a vegetable stand, though they had unconsciously started floating while sampling some particularly good cheese. But now Marcus had bigger problems. What do you mean, Earth is being evaluated? He sat at his kitchen table, staring at the 3 aliens who had become his unlikely roommates. The morning sunlight streamed through his window, causing their barely contained forms to shimmer slightly despite their human disguises. The Cultural Integration Initiative is merely phase 1 of a larger assessment process, Sarah explained, her form flickering slightly with what Marcus had come to recognize as nervousness. Every potentially spacefaring civilization must be evaluated before contact can be officially established. And you didn't think to mention this earlier. Marcus ran his hands through his hair, a habit that his alien roommates had extensively documented as a sign of human stress. We were instructed to observe natural human behavior, Maya offered. Knowledge of evaluation tends to skew results. Great. Perfect. So what exactly are you evaluating us for? Alex stepped forward, their form momentarily shifting into complex geometric patterns before settling back into human appearance. Earth stands at a crucial junction. Your technology is advancing rapidly, but your social development is uneven. The Galactic Council needs to determine if humanity is ready for the responsibilities of cosmic citizenship, and if we're not ready. The 3 aliens exchanged looks that made Marcus's stomach drop. Sarah spoke first, her voice gentler than usual. Then certain measures would be taken to ensure humanity remains focused on planetary development for another few centuries. You mean you'd stop us from advancing into space? Marcus felt his throat tighten. Keep us confined to Earth. It would be temporary, Maya assured him. Just until your species achieves greater unity and environmental stability. Marcus stood up abruptly, pacing his living room. The city sprawled below his window, millions of humans going about their lives, unaware they were being judged by beings who could reshape reality at will. So why tell me now? Because, Sarah said, you've shown us something unexpected. Your responses to our presence, your adaptability, your way of thinking, they've made us question our initial parameters. What do you mean? Alex generated a holographic display showing various metrics and data points that Marcus couldn't begin to comprehend. Human innovation often stems from limitation. Your species has achieved remarkable progress despite lacking many advantages other civilizations take for granted. You've developed spaceflight without anti-gravity technology, global communication without quantum entanglement, and complex social structures without telepathic abilities. We believe, Maya continued, that humanity's very constraints might be its greatest strength. You find solutions we would never consider because we've never had to work within such limitations. Before Marcus could respond, his phone buzzed, then buzzed again, and again. He pulled it out to find dozens of notifications flooding in. Breaking news alerts, social media explosions, emails from work, all about the same thing. Unknown energy, Sci-Net HURES, DGTCTEDG read the first headline. Mysterious Sci-Gingnails, BAFLE scientists, declared another. Oh no, Sarah whispered, her human facade slipping slightly. They're early. Who's early? Marcus demanded, but he already knew he wouldn't like the answer. The full evaluation team, Alex said, their form shifting anxiously. They weren't supposed to arrive for another 3 months. We haven't completed our preliminary assessment. The apartment's smart window suddenly flickered to life, displaying a message in the same geometric patterns Marcus had seen the night his roommates arrived. Sarah read it, her expression becoming more human in its worry. The Galactic Council has accelerated the timeline, she announced. They're concerned about recent developments in human quantum computing. She gave Marcus a meaningful look, particularly some of the projects at your company. Marcus felt the blood drain from his face. He'd been working on a new quantum encryption system, pushing the boundaries of what was thought possible. Are you saying my work triggered this? Your species is approaching a technological threshold sooner than anticipated, Maya explained. Once certain discoveries are made, they cannot be unmade. The Council wants to evaluate Earth's readiness before these advances occur. Outside, the city's power grid flickered as unknown energy signatures interfered with human technology. Marcus's phone was now buzzing constantly with messages from his company, demanding emergency meetings about unexplainable quantum phenomena in their systems. So what happens now? He asked, watching the chaos unfold below. Now, Sarah said, placing a hand on his shoulder that felt both solid and impossibly light, you become more than just a test subject. You become humanity's first unofficial ambassador to the stars. And if I fail? Then Earth remains isolated, Alex stated simply. Your technology would be subtly suppressed, your space programs would encounter unexplainable setbacks, and humanity would remain earthbound until the Council deems otherwise. Marcus looked at his 3 roommates, these beings who had crashed into his life, and turned everything upside down. They had come to study humanity, but had instead become invested in its potential. He saw in their shifting forms and worried expressions something he hadn't expected. Hope. How long do we have? The evaluation team will complete their initial survey in 72 hours, Sarah said. After that, they'll request direct contact with human representatives. Marcus grabbed his laptop, mind racing. Then we have 3 days to prove humanity deserves its place among the stars, and I think I know where to start. Where? Maya asked. My quantum encryption project isn't just about security, Marcus said, fingers flying over the keyboard. It's about finding patterns in chaos, about making connections that shouldn't be possible. Sound familiar? The 3 aliens watched as he pulled up his code, their forms rippling with sudden understanding. In their quest to evaluate humanity, they had overlooked something crucial. Sometimes the student could teach the teacher a thing or two about seeing things differently. The city lights flickered again, and somewhere in orbit, the first waves of the Galactic Council's evaluation team were preparing to judge humanity's worthiness. But in a high-rise apartment in Seattle, 4 unlikely friends were about to show them that worthiness couldn't always be measured by standard metrics. After all, humans had a habit of exceeding expectations, especially when the stakes were impossibly high. Marcus hadn't slept in 48 hours, and the city hadn't stopped shimmering with strange lights since the evaluation team arrived. His apartment had become mission control for what might be humanity's most important moment, though only 4 beings in the universe knew it. Your quantum encryption algorithm, Sarah said, her form flickering between human and her natural state, as she studied the code floating in holographic displays around them. It's not just encryption at all, is it? No, Marcus replied, gulping his 5th coffee. It's a communication protocol that works across quantum states. I was trying to solve secure data transfer, but I accidentally created something else entirely. Maya, who had been monitoring global reactions to the evaluation team's presence, turned from her station. You created a method of communicating through quantum entanglement without requiring pre-entangled particles. That's supposed to be impossible. Impossible by whose standards? Marcus grinned despite his exhaustion. Human history is full of impossible things becoming possible because nobody told us we couldn't do it. Alex materialized next to them, their form rippling with excitement. The evaluation team has completed their initial survey. They're confused. Human technology shouldn't be capable of detecting their presence, yet scientific installations worldwide are tracking their energy signatures. They're tracking the quantum disturbances my project detected, Marcus explained. We might not have anti-gravity or faster-than-light travel, but we're really good at noticing when things don't add up. The apartment's smart window suddenly blazed with alien script. Sarah read it, her human disguise dropping completely in shock. The council is concerned. They're detecting unauthorized quantum communications across your global network. That would be my code, Marcus said, pulling up more displays. I released it into my company's quantum computing network before they shut down operations. It's propagating through every quantum-capable system on Earth. You did what? Maya's form shifted rapidly through several colors. That's exactly the kind of unauthorized technological advancement they're worried about. No, Marcus countered. It's exactly what they need to see. Look at how the code is spreading. The holographic displays showed a web of connections forming across the globe. Each quantum-capable system that encountered Marcus's code began communicating with others, creating patterns that looked remarkably like neural pathways, Sarah whispered. Your code is making Earth's quantum computing networks behave like a neural network. A very specific type of neural network, Marcus nodded. One that can detect and interpret quantum state changes, like, say, the energy signatures of cloaked alien ships. As if on cue, his phone lit up with notifications. Scientific organizations worldwide were reporting unprecedented readings. The quantum disturbances weren't random. They were forming coherent patterns. Patterns that human instruments could now detect, analyze, and most importantly, respond to. The evaluation team is requesting direct contact, Alex announced, their form vibrating with nervous energy. This is unprecedented. They've never revealed themselves this early in an evaluation. Marcus stood, swaying slightly from exhaustion. Where do they want to meet? They don't, Sarah said, reading the alien text streaming across the window. They want you to respond through the quantum network you've created. They're curious how a primitive species managed to establish quantum communications without authorized technology. Marcus sat back at his laptop, fingers hovering over the keyboard. Then let's show them exactly what humanity can do when backed into a corner. He began typing, his quantum encryption code morphing into something new. What are you doing? Maya asked, watching the code evolve. Making first contact, Marcus replied. But on our terms, humanity might not have fancy technology or perfect unity, but we have something else. Creativity. We see patterns where others see chaos. We find connections where others see barriers. The code spread through the global quantum network, transforming random energy signatures into coherent communication. Above Earth, the evaluation team watched as a supposedly primitive species reached out across quantum states to say hello. But Marcus didn't stop there. Through the quantum network, he began sharing data, not just about human technology, but about human culture, art, music, literature. He showed them humanity's greatest achievements alongside its greatest failures, its capacity for both destruction and creation. They're responding, Sarah announced, her form glowing brighter with each passing moment. The evaluation team is impressed. They've never seen quantum communications used this way. That's because they've always had better technology, Marcus said, not taking his eyes off his work. Humans had to get creative. We had to find workarounds and shortcuts. We had to think differently. The apartment hummed with energy as the quantum conversation continued. Outside, the strange lights in the sky formed patterns that news stations were scrambling to explain. Social media was exploding with theories, from alien invasion to mass hallucination. "The council is convening an emergency session," Alex reported. "Our report on human ingenuity, combined with this demonstration, has forced them to reconsider their evaluation criteria." "Good," Marcus said, finally looking up from his laptop. "Because I just invited them to dinner." "You what?" All three aliens exclaimed simultaneously. "Through the quantum network. I suggested that if they really want to understand humanity, they should sit down and share a meal with us. No technology, no evaluations, just conversation." Sarah's form fluctuated between disbelief and admiration. There's no protocol for that." "Exactly," Marcus smiled. "And that's exactly why it's the perfect way to prove humanity's worth. We don't just think outside the box. We redesign the box, turn it into something else entirely, and then invite everyone over for dinner to talk about it." The alien script on his window changed color, shifting through several spectrums before settling into what Sarah recognized as formal acceptance. "They've agreed," she said, sounding stunned. "The entire evaluation team has accepted your dinner invitation. This has never happened in the history of planetary evaluations." Marcus stood, stretching his tired muscles. "Then we better start cooking. And maybe we should invite Mrs. Rodriguez. She's been dying to show off her casserole recipe to a wider audience." As his alien roommates stared at him in a mixture of horror and awe, Marcus couldn't help but laugh. Sometimes the best way to prove your worth wasn't through advanced technology or perfect civilization. Sometimes it was as simple as extending a hand, or a quantum signal, in friendship and saying, "Let's talk over dinner." Now he just had to figure out what to serve to a group of beings who might not even have mouths. But that was tomorrow's problem. For now, he had successfully turned an evaluation of humanity's readiness for the stars into a dinner party. Somehow, that felt like the most human solution possible. Mrs. Rodriguez's tuna surprise casserole sat at the center of Marcus's dining table, surrounded by an array of Earth's most iconic dishes and what appeared to be floating orbs of pure energy. The evaluation team had arrived in forms that resembled abstract art more than beings, while Sarah, Maya, and Alex maintained their human appearances to help put the human guests at ease. Yes, guests. Plural. Because when you're hosting a dinner party that will determine humanity's cosmic fate, you might as well invite the neighbors. "So you're telling me," Mrs. Rodriguez said, serving another helping of casserole to a being that looked like a constellation given form, "that you've been living next door to aliens this whole time?" "Only for the past few weeks," Marcus replied, watching in fascination as the evaluation team member absorbed the casserole into their energy field. "Though I'm more surprised you're taking this so calmly. Dear, I've lived in Seattle for 60 years. This isn't even the strangest dinner party I've attended." She turned to one of the evaluation team members. "Would you like the recipe? Though I should warn you, the secret ingredient is love, and quite a bit of MSG." The being pulsed with what Marcus had learned to recognize as amusement. Through the quantum network he created, their thoughts translated into understandable communication. Human cuisine is fascinating. You take basic molecular structures and transform them into experiences that transcend mere sustenance. "That's humanity in a nutshell," Sarah commented, maintaining her human form, but allowing her true voice to harmonize with her words. "They take the ordinary and make it extraordinary, often in ways we never considered possible." The head of the evaluation team, a being that resembled an aurora borealis condensed into humanoid shape, turned to Marcus. "Your quantum communication network has shown us something unprecedented, not just in its technical achievement, but in its purpose." "How so?" Marcus asked, trying to keep his voice steady despite knowing this conversation would affect humanity's future. "Most species develop quantum communications as a means of control or military advantage," the being explained. "You developed it to connect, to share, to invite understanding. Even when faced with evaluation, your first instinct was to extend an invitation rather than defend or hide." "Well," Marcus smiled, It's kind of a human tradition. When in doubt, feed people and talk things out. Mrs. Rodriguez nodded sagely. Food brings everyone together, even quantum energy beings, apparently. The evaluation team's forms shifted in what might have been collective consideration. Through the quantum network, their thoughts resonated. We came to evaluate humanity's technological readiness for cosmic citizenship. Instead, you have demonstrated something far more valuable. The capacity to transform limitations into innovations, to see opportunities where others see obstacles, and to face the unknown with both curiosity and compassion. So, Marcus ventured, does this mean Earth passes the evaluation? The head evaluator's form brightened. Earth has not merely passed. You have caused us to reevaluate our entire assessment process. Your quantum network, for instance, it should not work according to our understanding of physics. Yet here we are, communicating through it. Humans have a habit of doing the impossible, Maya added, usually because no one told them it couldn't be done. Precisely, the evaluator agreed, which is why we are proposing something unprecedented. Rather than simply granting Earth access to galactic society, we would like to establish a permanent cultural exchange program. Marcus nearly choked on his coffee. You mean? Your apartment, Sarah explained, beaming, would become the first official Earth-based embassy for the Galactic Council. With your permission, of course. Mrs. Rodriguez clapped her hands in delight. Oh, how wonderful. I'll have to make more casseroles. The evaluation team's forms rippled with what might have been alarm, causing Marcus to hide a smile. Some things in the universe, it seemed, were universally mysterious, like the contents of Mrs. Rodriguez's signature dish. There will be challenges ahead, the head evaluator cautioned. Humanity will need to be introduced to cosmic society gradually, to prevent cultural shock. But your quantum network has already begun the process, creating a framework for understanding across boundaries of species and physics. And what about you three? Marcus asked, turning to his alien roommates. Will you be staying? If you'll have us, Sarah replied, her human form glowing slightly with emotion. Someone needs to help manage Earth's transition into the galactic community. And besides, she added with a surprisingly human smirk, I've grown rather fond of cat videos. As the evening wound down, Marcus stood by his window, watching the city lights blend with the subtle glow of cloaked alien ships above. The evaluation team had departed, leaving behind detailed plans for Earth's integration into galactic society. Mrs. Rodriguez had gone home with promises to bring more casseroles. Now that I'm cooking for the whole galaxy. And his alien roommates were attempting to clean up using a mix of advanced technology and good old-fashioned dish soap. You know, he said to no one in particular, when I wished for my life to be more interesting, I didn't expect all this. Life rarely meets our expectations, Alex replied, materializing beside him. Sometimes it exceeds them in ways we could never imagine. Speaking of exceeding expectations, Maya called from the kitchen. Your quantum network is evolving. Humans worldwide are using it in ways we never predicted. Someone in Japan just used it to order pizza. Marcus laughed. Of course humans would take a groundbreaking quantum communication system and use it for food delivery. It was exactly that kind of adaptability that had impressed the council in the first place. Sarah joined them at the window, her form shifting slightly in the evening light. Ready to begin your new role as Earth's first unofficial ambassador to the stars. Marcus looked out at his city, knowing that somewhere out there, someone was probably using his quantum network to share cat memes with alien civilizations. And somehow, that felt exactly right. Ready as I'll ever be, he replied. Though we should probably set some ground rules about using advanced alien technology to debug the building's eye. Pretty sure the toaster isn't supposed to be sentient. As if in response, the toaster chimed happily from the kitchen, and Marcus couldn't help but smile. Life had become infinitely more complicated since that first notification on his smart window, but it had also become infinitely more interesting. And really, isn't that what humanity was all about? finding wonder in the ordinary, possibility in the impossible, and friendship in the most unlikely places, even if those friends happened to be shape-shifting aliens who really needed to learn that furniture wasn't a valid disguise option. The future was uncertain, but it was bright with possibility. And somewhere in the vast cosmic bureaucracy of the Galactic Council, there was now a file labeled Earth with a very unusual addendum. Approach with wonder. Expect the unexpected. And never, ever turn down dinner.